Food, hang out with my kids, and watch movies.
There you go.
Play a little bit of golf. That was about it.
Good stuff. Yeah, we hit the gym as I typically do. Always eat a lot of food. Uh, I believe on New Year's Eve, my first drink was at 9:30 in the morning, and it was a great day.
That's not a bad way to start.
No,
When
yeah.
was the last drink?
Uh, Three-ish.
Oh, it's a good stretch.
Don't bring it out every now and then, but still got it like that.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've done any of that, but
Yeah, that was fun. It was a good day, just chilling, very low key, and so it was nice.
where are you at country wise? Like you Nashville, Tennessee area?
Oh
Up
no,
by where?
Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're familiar with Chicagoland, I live in Des Plaines. I'm like 10 minutes north of O'Hare.
Just in as much as I am anywhere, just from shipping.
Yeah.
Just picturing the little dots on a map, and I'm like,
Yep.
yep, seen it. Never that's at.
Yep. It's I mean, I'm 5 minutes from Elk Grove Village, which has 40,000 MCs based in it. So
Yep. We used to call it like the Russian mob. Everybody there, everybody in the whole area, which is ironic because my wife's from Ukraine, and it's funny. Like, actually met some of the people later on that I've met and done business with. But yep.
good times.
Who do you work for, Robert? I know we haven't got a chance to connect yet, like one on one. What do you do?
So I'm a global account executive for Shipwell. So we sell software as well as some execution brokerage services. Yeah, TMS software, connected software. It's what we do.
Okay.
Yep.
So mostly TMS.
Yeah, that's my main focus because, to be frank, that's what I make the most money on. So that's what I focus on. So yeah, I do that, and then I do some podcasts and I do some consulting on the side for like social media and that kind of stuff. So I've got a decent social media following. I've built up 2 or 3 different podcasts, either that I've been host on or that I've consulted on. So I do some of that stuff too.
Nice.
Yeah.
How's it going, Jeff?
What's going on, guys? Not much. How are you guys? Robert, it's been a while.
It has been a while.
We used to speak back during your quad days.
Yeah, many moons ago.
How's life?
Man, things are good. Things are very good. It's glad 2020 is over. I'll tell you that much. But
No. 2021 has already turned out so good.
it's definitely going to be the hangover from 2020 is going to be interesting. That's what I'm going to call January. It's basically the hangover.
Right.
That's pretty much the way everyone's kind of looking at it. At the very least, the first week. I don't know about the whole month of January, but definitely the first couple of days.
Yeah, it's something.
Hey, Juan, you get your construction done. Looks like you got your place.
Yep, I did.
There you go.
Hey, you spend so much time in your house, every wrinkle, you start memorizing it. You're like, oh, this needs fixing. It was a little touch over, one of my first flips, when it comes to real estate. So let's see how that goes out when it goes out to market in a year or so.
Nice. How's it going, Justin?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Doing well. First week of 2021 in the books for the most part.
No, this is not the first week. It can't be. It didn't count.
Well, Rhonda, you're my favorite place.
Hi.
Rhonda, Nick, how's it going, guys?
Hi.
What's up, guys? Getting a quick pump in on the meeting. It's great.
I think Rhonda just lives in the gym.
What a life.
There is worse places to be. I'll tell you that much.
Tough
That's
gig.
true.
Someone has to do it.
Everything is locked here, so no one can go to the gym.
I heard you guys are like in tier 53 lockdown right now.
Oh, man.
I don't know how many tiers there are anymore. Like, we're going a tier up every week.
Goodness.
What is it technically, Nick?
Inception.
What is it? Like, where are you guys like level? Like, what are the levels?
Code red? I don't know. It's one of my colleagues lives in Brisbane, and they've had like nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. And we were on the call yesterday, and he was laughing. We don't even wear masks. We're all fine. Today I got a text. One of you fuckwits from the UK came over, and now we're in lockdown.
Oh.
So we're messing it up for everyone. So yeah.
Well, pretty soon you guys will be in level 60, and that means no hope, means no talking, means you can pass it through the Zoom. So no Zooms, nothing. Just stay locked down, live in fear.
But it's not just there. Over here, we're locking down again today at 7 until Tuesday, 5 a.m. We're like that first time that they locked us down, it's a curfew. So it's like legal resolution. If they catch you outside, it's going to be like a $300 fine. And I was like, well, I just got back from the States, and this is what I bring.
But that's what they should have done here. But because like for 12 months, they've not done any sanctions or whatsoever. So everybody's like, nothing happened the last 12 months. So you're telling me to stay home. So that's what's happening. Nobody cares what's being said because there's no sanctions.
How much percentage of the population do you guys think that actually believe in the pandemic? Like,
that's a hard question.
70.
Well, I think we need some parameters on that. When you say believe in the pandemic, do you think that it's actually as bad as it is?
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you guys something. I got the Rona in December, mid-December. I took care of myself like you can't imagine. It still got to my house. Fortunately, only I got it, right? Somewhere around like the 16th of December. And I passed my 24th, my Christmas, and my 31st locked in a room in a hotel because my trip was a mess after that, right? So I was part of that population that was like, it's on the news, but it's not happening around me. I don't know nobody that has it. And then I got it. It literally slapped me in the face, like real hard.
I think everybody now acknowledges it for the most part, less the fringe groups, because we all know somebody who's died or who has had it at this point. I at least a dozen that I know of. I know 5 people in my circle that have died from it. So
I should pull up a picture of a bar down the street that I took. I was leaving the grocery store Sunday, and it's an outdoor bar. There had to be 100 people outside, wall to wall on this deck, as if there is just, and it was like 2 days after New Year's. And I'm like, there is no way that New Year's Eve didn't look like that in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, and all the way up the coast. Absolutely.
Times 10, I bet, even on New Year's. Jeez.
Oh, yes.
This is my take on it. And this may, I don't think it's going to offend anybody, but I don't think everybody's going to share the same view. Coronaviruses in general they've been around for thousands of years. And this is simply the next evolution. I'm not saying it's the same as a cold, but it is in the same family. Just like, hey, there's a high school football player and a pro football player. They are playing the same sport, but they're different, right?
Yeah.
And you get tackled by one, it's going to hurt a lot more. So
yeah.
So the reality is all of us are going to get it in some level. All of us. And if you say you haven't had a coronavirus, you're wrong. So everybody's going to get it at some level. The things that we can do is control what we can control. If you want to wear a mask, feel free to wear a mask. That gives some people peace of mind. Because part of it too is you have to instill in yourself a lack of fear or reduce the amount of fear, because fear raises cortisol levels, which then inhibits the immune system.
Yep.
So you have to do what you feel comfortable with so you lower those cortisol levels. So the other things you can do, how do you supplement? Juan, you mentioned earlier, you took care of yourself, right? Vitamin D3, zinc, vitamin E. Do what you can to minimize the effects it's going to have. Now, depending on what your work life is, you may have a very high viral load that you're going to be exposed to, and you need to be very, very diligent about taking these steps. And the reality is, we're more than likely all still going to get it. And so it's, what do? We have to. This sounds terrible. Yeah. This is going to scare a lot of people. The thing you do is you get the people with the most reactive and the strongest immune systems in front of this thing, which is children. The worst thing that we did is we locked schools, because kids have the most adaptive immune systems. And if this thing gets to them, now, again, I understand some people are concerned that their immune systems may be weak, but they're also adaptive. They take pictures of this stuff, and kids, pardon my language, beat the shit out of things like this.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that we as a population needed to do. However, because we saw so much so fast, we had to react very quickly to, again, alleviate some fears and try to contain as best we could, because there are opportunities to contain these things. But again, the reality is it's a coronavirus. It's going to continue to evolve. Soon we're going to see the South Florida version. So we have South Africa, Uganda, UK. We're going to have the South Florida version. Sorry. and so all those things, it's going to evolve. It's going to mutate. And so the biggest thing we can do right now is prepare ourselves, prepare our immune systems to fight whatever the next mutation is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's where those of us in the wellness and fitness realm really try to get people to prioritize taking care of their health. So it's not just about eating healthy and exercising to look good. It's all about inside,
right?
Things that you can't see that are honestly, in my opinion, more important than the external part. Like, yeah, it's great to be in shape and look good, but for our mental and physical well-being and our immune system, like health matters, first and foremost regarding anything in life.
Exactly. It's not just putting fuel in the tank. You've also got to change the oil. You've got to change the battery. You've got to do all
a
that.
lot of maintenance involved, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, I think we got about enough of everybody to get kind of started. I think we got some really good topics to go through today. Obviously, this has been a week where there's quite a bit that's transpired. Literally minute by minute, things are changing as all of it. I've outlined some of the bigger things. I think one of the gooder ones, one of the better topics to start off with, since it's the goodest, New Year's resolutions. So I'm going to throw a poll up on New Year's resolutions, kind of get everything started, and we'll kind of run with that.
Right, let's go.
Robert, one of the strangest cravings that I got while I was sick was to do squats.
That is a beautiful thing to do, and I highly recommend doing squats for everybody.
So first question, do you make New Year's resolutions? Multiple choice, I don't make them at all. I make at least one, forget about it a week later. I make at least one and stick to it through January. Make at least one and stick to it until it becomes a habit. And finally, I make a list of resolutions and follow up with a plan to institute all of them. It's got 9 out of 13.
I feel like it's kind of missing my answer.
Uh-oh.
You're the anomaly.
Other button. Need the other.
Throw it in the chat.
Let me see.
Discussion. What's your answer?
Only one question at one time, Ben? Wow, I like this new format. There's usually a bunch of them. And you read it to us. That was fantastic. Thank you. Enjoyed that.
We don't need Trey anymore.
Replace. No.
Going for efficient. Well, if it's being produced to a podcast, I kind of assume that anybody listening to this wouldn't be able to see it. And if I don't go through the topics, probably nobody listens going to at least be able to hear it. So
exactly.
Good thinking.
Well, that's very nice of you.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. I wasn't expecting it.
So we'll go about another 30 seconds. I know a couple of people were calling on phones, so probably not going to be able to see the poll. But if you want to chime in after, we'll bring this one to a close and kind of go through it.
Yeah, we can usually see it, Ben, on our phones. Usually I have my phone with me.
Okay.
What?
Oh.
Sorry, my cat almost broke my freaking lamp.
Wow.
So with 50%, I don't make resolutions at all is the one. Followed by, I make at least one and stick to it until it becomes a habit. We've got at least 2 people that say they make a list and follow up with a plan until they institute all of them.
Wow.
And ironically, and I made number 3, what the overwhelming majority of Americans do is they pick at least one and they quit by about the second week of February. By far is the overwhelming. And none of our group picked that one, which is interesting.
You see that in the gym every year. Right there. Most crowded month I feel like is always January, and then it always starts tapering down to
by March.
The people that are
March, it's empty.
Oh,
that's your spot back.
All of my PT patients, I always told everybody, if you're looking for exercise equipment, start looking in the ads somewhere around the end of February, beginning of March, because all those people that went out and bought weight stacks or treadmills or ellipticals, they used them for about 5 days. Now they've got clothes hanging on them, and in March they're taking up too much room and they want to get rid of them. So I'm like, you can find some tremendous deals on Craigslist on exercise equipment in March.
I'd say this group is a group of people that look to like better themselves throughout the year. So like setting a date to do it It just seems like ludicrous to actually say like, oh, well, on this day, I'm going to change. Like, I think we can just wake up one morning, every morning, and just say, I'm going to make a change. Hey, cut it out.
I think
That's a chihuahua.
That's a great point,
I got
Eric.
2 of them.
This is half joking. I go into full bully mode at the gym from January to February. So if someone can survive me when I'm that, then they can survive. And again, it's a different gym environment than most people are used to. But we clear so many people out during the first week of January because, like, hey, cool, powerlifting is a great sport and everything. It's a really
My God.
You can go hang out at next sport if you want to go take videos of yourself.
I was gonna say, especially for you, I bet you get some people that think they're real like kind of meatheads or whatever and can get into powerlifting, and then they actually try it and it's completely different.
So funny story, we had this guy come in and he, nice guy. He's all excited to train with us and everything. And he goes around to every person in our group, asks, what's your biggest squat? I'm like, I don't think you're gonna like the answer to this there, Haas. And he's like, oh yeah, I squatted 405 for 3. I'm like, cool. And then and it was just this long pause. And I'm like, in this pod that you're training in, there's not a single person in here that squats under 800 pounds except me.
Jesus.
So you might want to check yourself a little bit there, Haas. Don't get me wrong, we'll help you if you're willing to listen, but you're
We
in a
don't have that kind of weight in this gym over here.
you're in deep water right now.
Literally be
Visit
no other
lots of
plates left in the
people.
gym.
Damn.
Ron is like one person can work out at a time because we don't have any more plates for anybody to squat.
Yeah, no.
We have just in plate weight at our facility, we've got just a hair under 45,000 pounds.
Jeez.
But we have a lot of
insane.
That's a full truckload.
Yeah, better check your ego at the door there for sure.
I am curious who on this call, we had 2 people that said they make a list and they actually follow up with a plan to institute every one of them. Who are one of the people?
That was the closest thing to my idea of how I develop, over time. It's like it changes a lot. So it's like, don't want to have to look at those unchecked boxes that ended up becoming some version 3.0 of what it was,
Who's the other one? Raquel, did you have?
I was. Yeah. So we kind of just came up with overall goals and set targets for what we wanted to do on a weekly, daily basis. We all have it on a calendar on the fridge, and that way we can keep ourselves accountable throughout the house.
I love that. I mean, the accountability is the key piece. There's a great book on this. A lot of us coaches started last year. It's the 12-week year. And it's based on the premise that as you get closer to a deadline, you tend to become more motivated, right? So even if you look at big businesses, if you look at their end of quarter results, the sales always pick up going into the end of the quarter before they finish, right? And instead of trying to look at these long time frames that don't really align with incentives on how human beings actually are motivated, you shorten them to digestible pieces, right? And in your case, a week. And that's something that's long enough that you can achieve it. You can feel like you've accomplished it. It builds your confidence, and you can make those little steps towards the bigger goals in life. Instead of these outlandish goals like, I've never watched what I ate my entire life, and you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to become a strict vegan, right?
Or I'm going to squat 800 pounds with Mr. Bain,
The first time I go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
I got to figure out the polling piece. I think if I just go to the next one, it'll go to the next question. There we go. No, that's the same one. Okay.
I'll wait in silence.
While we wait in the silence, I was on a different call, but did anybody else see the difference in Robert Bain's picture when he went on video?
Yeah.
I don't
when
think
was
that
that,
can
man?
go by silently.
This is from 2017. I probably weigh about 30 pounds less than I do now too, and there is no beard.
Yeah, didn't you say you had never grown a beard, really?
Correct.
For this?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And I couldn't grow a beard even if I wanted to. I'm one of those genetical people that just like doesn't need to shave. I just
when I was in the Marine Corps,
baby face for life. Baby face for life, man.
I said the same. Greg, I think you were in my office when I said that once. That I would never grow a beard, and amazing, my wife is very persuasive.
I'm in that camp too.
Smart man.
My wife loved it, and that's what I ended up with. So our next poll: will there be a better plan for distributing the vaccine this year? Will there be any change? Number 1, the change in administration, they may do a better job. Number two, the change in the powers that be won't have any effect on the distribution. Number three, the states will solve this issue on their own. And number four, the states and the federal government are going to work together a little better this year. So early favorite looks like the states are going to solve this issue on their own. I am curious, as we're waiting for some of the rest of the results in, who on here picked that, and why do you think the states are going to be able to somehow start organizing things?
I did, because it's, each little territory here, at least in Arizona, where it's, there's certain parts of the state that are highly residential, and then you have communities where there's 2 or 3 people living. Like, the state has a better idea of the demographics and the logistics involved, and how to give you, for example, in Tonto Forest, there's one road into Tonto Forest, and right now it's closed because of flooding and fires, and the federal government's not going to know how to reach those folks down there. So that was my thinking for that.
No, I think that's a great point. I am curious some of the other thoughts on this. I mean, everybody in here, for the most part, kind of got together involved in logistics. I mean, you would hope and think that these people are learning from mistakes that are being made and understanding and trying different ways. So you would think that things would get better just through time and attempts.
Yeah.
Who on here doesn't think this is going to get better and thinks we're going to stay at these abysmal levels of distribution throughout this year?
Me, my wife works for the city of Chicago. She's an infectious disease pharmacist. She works for Chicago Public Department of Health, and she's specifically on the COVID task force. And
close to an expert as we're going to get.
She works from home 3 days a week. So I listen to, she puts all the calls on speaker. They're a total clusterfuck. They have no clue what they're doing. Every single state is doing something totally separate. They get to make up whatever age groups they want to do it. It really, and then you get to like the actual dispensing of it, and then all of a sudden it breaks down an additional layer, and each city is doing it differently throughout the state, and some hospitals are giving it to patients already. Some are totally off.
So
there's no way that they're going to fix it.
What are her thoughts? I mean, this isn't the first time there's been mass distribution of a vaccine. I mean, there are examples where, I forget, there was another area where they distributed, like, I think it was in Africa, something like 4 to 6 million doses. They did it in like 3 or 4 months. Like, there are precedents. This isn't unprecedented. At this level it is. So, I mean, do you think if there is actually a coordinated effort from the federal government and they can pass some guidelines onto the states and help with the coordination, that might iron out the kind of, as you put it, clusterfuck that's transpired up until now?
Without a doubt.
I think the way that our government is set up, that's likely not going to happen, right? Because we give too much responsibility to the states, and the states get to choose what they want to do. So realistically, the federal government can't really do anything beyond giving a certain amount to specific states, right? And then from there, it's the state's decision how they want to do it. And I mean, not every state's the same either. So how you're going to do it in Montana is significantly different how you're going to do it in Chicago. But I don't know. I just don't see it getting better, because at the end of the day, everyone's probably going to be vaccinated by midsummer, or at least the majority of people that want to be. And it's just not enough time for them to actually implement change. We're talking about the government.
What do you think, Meshack? Got an opposing view? What do you think?
I think I'm hearing a lot of political perspectives in this conversation. I mean, these plans have been in place for many, many years, ever since SARS. They've got federal plans in place. They just weren't engaged. I mean, Pete Buttigieg is going to be nominated, and he's actually spent a lot of time focusing on infrastructure. So he's actually got some knowledge there. I mean, I think the federal government's going to move into play. They've got the expertise on logistics. They actually have a plan. I forgot where it came from, but CIDRAP has talked about it a bit. Dr. Michael Osterholm has talked about it a bit, how essentially there is a plan in play that could be just put into play. And I think that it's really easy to get caught up in so much of the political conversations between both sides, and forget that like this stuff has already been figured out. It just hasn't been implemented because of political fighting. And I think that I get the feeling that I'm not a very political person, but I get the feeling that Biden is much more of a moderate and much more concerned about kind of following kind of more established plans than kind of what God, I forgot his name again. Sorry. Trump's son-in-law, what his name was
Kushner.
trying to do.
Jared
Kushner. I mean, Kushner was trying to kind of innovate and bully for him for taking that position and thinking that he could kind of reinvent things so quickly. And I think that just be a more of a conventional approach coming forward, but who knows? I mean,
to piggyback off that, and first of all, +1 Meshach for the bully for you reference. I like that. I think because I answer that it's going to be a combination of state and federal, and I think you mentioned there is a lot of political flavor to this conversation right now. You can't not have it because this is a virus has been politicized, right? I mean, you got masks,
yeah, they weaponized it.
Yeah, and so what I think is going to happen, to your point, with new leadership at the highest level here in the U.S. And I've said this in private conversations many times, that every level of government in the United States failed with this. Every single level, whether it's your local county governor or whatever title they have, all the way up to commander in chief. Everyone failed. So
to add a little bit to that, it's not just the U.S. Everybody in the world failed.
Sure.
Like,
because I don't think anybody really wanted to really admit, like, okay,
acknowledge it, yeah.
And put in
a lot of the Asian countries succeeded.
Yeah, New Zealand didn't fail. Australia didn't fail.
Immediately, they've had no issues. Like, there are
Ben,
countries that have succeeded.
We also came out.
China's numbers can't be trusted.
China.
Yeah, they can't.
But what we didn't do as a nation is say, listen, we don't know a lot about this. We do know it's affecting people. So our plan is going to change as we learn more. We never said that. Again, that's at the national, state, county, city level. We never said things like that. It was, this is our plan. Hey, guys, it's just 2 weeks. No big deal. My son told me yesterday we're in day 300 of the just 2 weeks. So,
It's
and
gonna
again,
be-
there's a lot of factors for that. But what you're going to see is you're going to see this, in the spirit of unity, to Meshach's point about with Biden coming in, I do feel we're going to see a lot more, guys, here's the guidance. Yes, you're a state, and so you can kind of make your own decisions. Here's the guidance we're going to have. And we really need this to work because we would all love to see each other this summer. That's kind of my take on it.
We were talking about this morning, actually, because in Arizona, there's a lot of people that are actually fearful of getting vaccinated for whatever reason. I mean, that's a real issue here. And now they've moved down to the next, group that's allowed to get the vaccine. And we were talking about, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out if you're required to take the vaccine and if you could lose your job for not taking it. I mean, there are people with some legitimate concerns on both sides. So I think that's going to be the next, wave of
I've heard some interesting things on that. Like, that's done right now. I mean, there are plenty of restrictions. You cannot fly without certain vaccinations of other things. There are certain positions and jobs that you cannot go to work without being vaccinated. Like, you can't be a janitor in a hospital without your vaccines. Like, there are places, and that's absolutely, that precedent has been there. Whether or not, like you said, what will happen, it's been politicized so much. Are they going to be able to de-escalate it and go, look, this is a threat to everybody. The virus doesn't care whether or not you drive from Georgia to Florida every day to go to work, or whether you cross into, North Carolina. It's going to follow wherever the people are. It's not a state threat. It's a national threat. You would think there would be a unified response. Well, I mean, time will tell, I guess, whether or not we see that.
Yeah.
So for our next big one, I think, is the topic of the week, right? What happened at the Capitol building? Let's see.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Dude.
Figure out how to get this one.
So embarrassing.
All right.
Yes.
Number 3, who is responsible for the riot at the Capitol and the deaths that resulted? Number 1, the individuals that were arrested. Had number 2,
You have it up.
the groups that were involved with the violence. And number 3, the president. So literally the question that has been on pretty much 24/7 since this has transpired.
Did you guys already see the memes about the Simpsons being right again.
Oh, they predicted it again?
Yes,
Oh,
the
right.
guy that had that buffalo, hat.
Yep.
Groundskeeper Willie was dressed like him.
Yeah, exactly. That
Mm.
dude's an alien.
Could we have a ABC, a D version, all of the above?
Yeah.
Well, I
Oh,
made
yeah.
this one actually multiple choice so you could pick more than one. Like I made this one specifically so I think you could pick one
Oh.
answer. You should have been
Oh.
able to.
He's only let me choose one.
They're radio buttons.
Yeah.
It only let me choose one, and then it disappeared.
I have some very strong opinions.
I thought about that when I was trying to frame this because I wanted to keep it as open as possible to genuinely hear what everybody's kind of view is on this because I am really anxious to kind of hear. I mean, we can start with the first one. We've got one person that says the individuals that were arrested. What were your thoughts? How did you, I guess, kind of give us your thoughts behind that?
Well, I don't think the president called the dudes and told them go storm the Capitol. That I think that was just something that with the moment, that being in the crowd, the violence, the agitation, and people going into like swarm mode, and the emotions driving decisions. There's that one dude that said, "Hey, Area 51, fuck this, let's go in there and go all the way to Pelosi's desk and shout at her," and that's.
I do have a question. Does anybody know if they were actually headed to the Capitol building before the president said head to the Capitol?
They were, in terms of, they were planning on protesting there, but I think that he, during the speech, was a little bit more guiding of, we're going to the Capitol building.
And he
after
said
this.
we, right? And
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he said, I'll go with you. He said, I'll be with you.
I mean, I saw video of policemen opening the gates and waving people like, come this way. And I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't have went anyway, but if I would have been there and a policeman opens the gate and says, come on, I mean, I think there's a lot of
you're
people
ahead of me,
here
Eric. That's our next question.
The-
The next question is security at the Capitol. And I kind of
I think
framed
there
that in
was
a way to
lot
get
of people
everybody's
there with
opinion.
Good intentions that just got in the moment. I mean, if you've ever been in the moment with certain things and then realize like you're on the other side of the line and like, oh my God, what happened?
I think that's the point, right? I mean, if you went into a mall and you yelled something and a riot was started and somebody died, like you would be held responsible, right?
You can't yell fire, right?
I mean, the same as if you were on I mean, if you did that anywhere, isn't that kind of the definition? Curious some thoughts on the groups that were involved. I mean, because it's a pretty legitimate, I think, point where you think the groups that were involved actually contributed to this or should, I guess, in some way be held responsible. Anyone's thoughts? We had about 7 grab that response.
I think people on social media, I think that there's way too many people who take social media as an affirmation of their thoughts. And that there's probably like 75% of the people who write stuff on there that are just kind of joshing.
And it's designed that way, Eric, right?
Yeah.
Like the platform is designed to put you with people that agree with what you're saying, to drive that algorithm, to generate more ad revenue. It puts you with people that are like-minded and feeds that. And I actually had that was number 4 and I took it off was, do you think Twitter or social media was responsible? And I mean, I'm curious what the thoughts are on that. Do you think that they should have prevented some of these tweets? Or do you think at the end of the day, what they did in regards to preventing him from having access to Twitter for the next 12 hours was the right move?
I think there was enough other people that are involved in the, the promoting of propaganda that don't even have like, they enjoy it. They may not have ever been in any intentions of going to DC themselves, but they get a large enough following that they can suggest things that people do and say, yeah, we're going to be there. And no one's really going to be there, but enough fools follow it. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to be there. And then, like I said, once you're there and you're in the moment and everybody's chanting and the gates open, you're not going to be
mentality.
the one that stands back.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the one that's be like, well, I came all the way to DC and I was only going to protest, because if you look at the pictures of some of those people in there, they're just in there like, wow, we're in here. Like, there's like an old lady with like a flag and a coffee cup. And she's just like, she doesn't look like she's in there trying to like be part of a mob. There's a lot of people that are just in there. They're like, wow, we got in,
Some of them were like that.
Yeah, there's others that, because obviously if there's a group of people that are promoting violence and mob mentality, there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, right on, let's go. I don't know. I don't like to propagate stuff, but a lot of the guys that were dressed like I don't know, I'd say patriots or veterans, things like that. All of their gear was brand new. Like they got really shiny boots, and the patches on their hats are like perfect. And anybody who's had the hats that have the Velcro on them know that the patches get worn out pretty easily. I mean, the fatigues that they're wearing are like some type of
freshly pressed and
fresh,
like,
yeah. I mean, it was just, to me, it was like, I mean, I understand, like if I was going to DC, I'd probably buy an outfit to go, but I'd probably like buy like new shoes and jeans, maybe a new couple shirts or something, but not like brand new, you know, Oakley gloves for the combat gloves and the combat fatigues.
It was their time to shine, Eric, man. They were waiting for this for a long time. They were talking about it. They were excited for it. They got dressed up, bought new gear, headed down there.
It's hard to see any side. Like for me, it's hard to validate either side. I think like I see things and it's just like, wow, that makes this look true. And then you're like, but it's not really like a fact. It's just things that kind of lend towards one thing or the other, but it's really just, it's hard to decipher, you know. I mean, I think of all the Republican senators and congressmen who were willing to sign on the dotted line that they were gonna go against the electoral college. That's like, I mean, unless you have any type of like proof, like real proof, I mean, that's pretty much suicide, like political suicide. This is a guy I went to high school out of Lubbock, Texas. He's in Lubbock, Texas. And he signed along. He's gone. Like, I mean, he's not going to make it to his next term. The people there are pissed, and it's a big Republican area. He's a Republican, but I mean, when you sign to do something like that without, I mean, I don't know. I just kept waiting. Like, he's a sensible guy. I know.
Well, Lindsey Graham, Eric, had a really good speech, I thought, after they reopened the House, where he kind of went through and he's like, look, I supported this. I am for it. If there was a concern about fraud, like I asked, and he was like, I think he went through the examples. He's like, look, I went to Arizona and you guys said there were 50,000 fraudulent votes. I asked for 10. I didn't get one. He said, I asked the next, and he went through all 7 of them. He's like, look, we have exhausted all of it. That's what the courts were for. He's like, I'm done at this point. And I am curious the thoughts. We had 4 people think the president was responsible. I want to know, I guess, out of these 4, or even just anybody's thoughts, is if you believe he was responsible, the next biggest question, and I kind of took this poll down because I wanted to hear a debate on this, I guess, a little bit, is if you think he was responsible, do you think he should be impeached? Do you think they should invoke the 25th Amendment? Or do you think the 12 days left in favor of just bringing the country together, they should just let it be, even if he is responsible? And that was kind of the follow-up I was curious to hear everyone's opinion on.
Oh, I'd love
Sorry, but my camera is not working well. I'm actually, I have an opinion on that. I was one of the ones who voted. I blame it on him because he has incited for everybody to meet there, and he did the initiative for all this to happen. And do I believe he needs to be impeached? Yes, but it's not practical at this moment because it's a process that's going to take way longer than the days he has left in the. So that would be a waste of time, and it's not going to accomplish anything. I was surprised this morning when he did the announcement that he finally recognized the new government coming into power. So at least that's a step up right there.
I want to ask one other question as a follow-up, and then I want to hear some other opinions on this. The other side of that coin that I had heard was, yes, they would need to have a Senate trial. That's not even likely in 12 days, even if you are in that camp. But the other side was, if you don't do anything to show that this behavior isn't acceptable, what message did this send to the next generation and to any other leader going forward? Because if you genuinely believe he was responsible and this goes unchecked, what message does that show to the world and to anybody else that holds that role, that you can do and you can have plausible deniability and then walk away at the end of the day and no harm, no foul? Any thoughts on that?
I think they're all on the same political theater back and forth. They created both sides. You know, how about some center positive minded folks that aren't trying to get people riled up? You know, I honestly think it starts with each person's individual responsibility, like how you conduct yourself, where you get your information for. Like, we each as individuals are responsible for our actions. And you know, can go through the process of impeachment, but really, who's going to pay for that, first of all? And there's so much mess, and that's just going to create more partisan divide. So it's
Agreed. I think that's true. What were your thoughts, Robert? I know you had.
So I got some strong opinions on this. So I definitely believe the individuals that were arrested are responsible. If you do things, you're responsible for them, good and bad, right? So there is culpability there. The groups that led to the groupthink that gave these individuals the power to think, hey, I can do this with no recourse, they are also responsible. At the end of the day, though, we've also got this ecosystem of social media, of these individuals, of this driving people together and then driving them, ripping them apart, that is being steered essentially, at least over the last 4.5 years, by one person. His tweets, his things, and I will say this, I voted for him twice.
His son said it best. He said yesterday, he was like, look, the Republican Party is the party of Trump, and we own the base. And regardless of whether or not you agree with us, we will definitely hold you accountable, because if you don't, we're coming for your seats. I mean, that's as much of a threat as I've ever heard.
Who said that?
He's Trump's son, Trump Jr., Don Jr.
To your point earlier about, what do we do? Because, hey, it's just 2 weeks, guys. No big deal. Let's let him stay in office. The real issue is that if we let him do all this, like all these things that happen, and there's no recourse, you have just shown, like my 10 and 12-year-old, you can do whatever you want and you're not going to get in trouble. As long as you have enough money and enough friends, you're fine.
That's the scary part, right?
But that's the reality too, right?
So what do you think should happen then, Robert? Because you got this limited time frame. You want to set the precedent that this isn't acceptable. But I believe for the 25th Amendment, you need his own cabinet basically to say he's unfit for them to be able to move forward with that.
So I would say, and again, I don't know what the process for this is, so I may be speaking totally out of turn. This is as we're talking about this. Fuck the 25th Amendment. Fuck the impeachment. All that. No, put him on a regular trial. Take him to a regular court, go through this whole criminal charges all the way through this. And again, this is very complicated to do it. But at the end
that may happen. That's why he said yesterday, he said he asked the question, or I guess posed, if he has the ability to pardon himself before he leaves office, because now that there are, I think 5 deaths, Capitol Police officer died, the veteran that died going in, and then 4 other people died for various industries. So like they're talking about murder charges.
Yeah.
No,
So
he can't pardon himself. That would be just like
it's never been done.
The apex of ridiculousness, because you can't audit yourself. It's not ethically correct.
Right.
Legally, I thought the Capitol couldn't be stormed too, but
well, true.
The way that I see it is that we're all pretty much everybody is in some way complicit with this. One, we've been living with Section 230 since the 1996, where basically we've given this imaginary, new rule to digital companies that they can promote content.
Yes.
And they can
no liability, not like a newspaper, just no responsibility.
They fire editors and then they put algorithms in place to promote stuff. So basically they've just created a robot to do a human's job, and somehow the robot isn't going to be culpable. They're not culpable for what the robots do, even though they program it. And robots, I use that colloquially. So there's that imaginary thinking, and most of us have lived comfortably with that world, and it doesn't make any sense. We have the magical thinking about what algorithms do, and that somehow they are neutral, and that somehow companies that are
they don't have ethics.
Are not
algorithms
twisting.
Don't care about character.
Yeah. So we need to change that thinking, and also just kind of there's just a lot of laissez-faire attitude about people who are saying pretty scary things and inspiring some of these people. But I think ultimately the president is the president. Responsibility flows upwards. And when a president says, I would slap that person or I would hurt that person, some people here kill that person. That's just the nature of that role. And so that's why presidents don't do this. And then a lot of us, even I think a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, even liberals and Democrats, have kind of given different rules to Trump, but the rules shouldn't be different. And I think that we should correct that immediately, so that our future presidents don't see that a lot of this stuff that we've kind of given, Trump is kind of, he's just this guy, he just does these things, he doesn't really mean it, people don't really listen. We've got to correct that immediately, or we will live with that forever. until, you know, we destroy ourselves. And that's the way that I see it, is that basically there needs to be this crushing blow that he can never run again, that basically it's shown that I don't want to go down the path of what he did, because if we don't, people are going to go down that path and we're all going to pay.
My question is in all this is that we've waited 4 years in the last moment to actually get into this step of thinking, what should we do now? I mean, what has happened before that? People hasn't.
That's what happened before that. He was impeached. This isn't just doing it now. He was impeached, and it was knocked down in the Senate. So it's not like it's just happening now.
Well, no, I get that, but what I'm trying to say is that when you have an individual such as this guy doing all the things that he's doing, let's say we know that he wasn't impeached, but nonetheless,
he was impeached.
There should be some process that could go over that. I mean, I know that there are laws involved, but nonetheless, we have to take action when we see that our chief is not doing the things the right way, and it's actually hurting the people's interests and the people's lives. So, I mean, I think there are laws that need to be taken upon to be able to go around this.
So a silver lining, I think, that does come from anything on the last 4.5 years with Trump and everything that has gone on. We've never had a more engaged public in the political process.
That is true.
And that I think, if nothing else, if that is his legacy, I'm okay with that, because hopefully that means that at the grassroots, like this is not the only conversation like this happening where, you know, hey, you know, I'll be somebody to admit, I just sent the suggestion, I supported the wrong person. I did. And it's hard to say that because I felt very strongly about his business acumen and what he was doing for the economy. But I did, unfortunately, with my vote, turn a blind eye to everything else.
Makes sense. I think it's a great segue, and I'm anxious to hear everyone's thoughts on this one. The security at the Capitol, right? Were you surprised our nation's Capitol was breached while they were in session? This isn't just an empty building, and it wasn't some symbolic thing. They went there with an intent. They executed. They disrupted it. I mean, I'm really anxious to kind of hear some of these thoughts on this. Looks like overwhelming favorite up front is yes, but we do have a few people that weren't surprised. Kind of final votes taken in. Yes is getting up a little bit more, 9-2.
So something interesting on a related matter. So I used to work with the people that provided security for Department of Defense installations and Department of Energy installations, and these were not Walmart security guards. Like these guys were all
Capitol Police.
Yeah, these guys. Well, the guys that I was working with, they were all special operations guys. They could
subcontractors, like they're bad.
Toothpick.
Yeah.
So at the facility in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which obviously is a nuclear facility, they had a break-in several years ago. People got over 2 fences, and one was a nun. It was a nun and a couple other old people, and they got through the defenses and they got on camera, and they were protesting. And in speaking with several of these people, and I worked with a couple of the lead security people, and they said, so really what should have happened in that situation is as soon as they got over the fence, they should have all been shot. They should have, protocol is for them all to have been shot, and no one would have heard anything about it. Because when somebody's attacking an installation like that, you don't ask questions about it because you don't know what it is when somebody's breaking into a nuclear facility.
First, shoot. Second, ask questions.
None. That's definitely one of the times where you pull the trigger and then you ask questions later.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can happen even when you have people that are supposedly on full alert and imminently trained to take that specific action. When it gets to the point when you see the nun coming over the fence, some people just say, well, dang, do I
shoot a nun?
Coming over the fence?
But the question
you have
is,
American people
kind of
coming
like
in
Eric
and say, well,
said.
dang,
Yes, because it's just a job.
Yeah, but hold on, taking a step back, this wasn't something that just happened out of nowhere. This was planned.
Right? They knew it was going to happen.
The former FBI director is like, how in the world did we not have undercover people within these protests? How did we not have barricades up? I mean, And then they made a really stark contrast. And look, I'm not trying to compare this to the other movements or any politicizing that side of it, but
You're not wrong,
when
though.
they gassed the protester so he could take a picture in front of the church, that wasn't that long ago. And I mean, that was a very different response to a very similar situation. What are your thoughts on that? I mean,
I'd say orders had to have been given to allow this to happen.
Well, you
For
said Eric,
sure.
Eric,
Man.
yeah, Eric said that there's some police officers letting people in. I mean,
I saw that.
I mean, and not only that, but like if the video of where the lady was shot, right? Okay, so she was shot by someone on the other side of the door when a whole SWAT team was behind her. So, I mean, and then the guy that was right behind her, immediately behind her when she got shot, he gives hand signals to the guy on the other side. I mean, you know where your people are at, and you're not going to fire towards your SWAT team. Like
Right.
I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but when there's facts that I know in security like that, I was actually on a detail that it got extended quite a bit because I was on a detail during 9/11, and I was just coming off of it, and they just kept us on there because we were already trained, we knew the area, and it's shoot to kill. Like I mean, it's pretty much you already have it in your mind that. In certain situations, this is the line. It's the rules of engagement. You don't
rules of engagement.
So you have to ask permission to fire for a lot of things, right? But there's certain things that you don't ask anything. Like you'd be wasting your time to ask for permission, and that's why we draw that line. And we go over it day in and day out. So if I'm like, let's say I'm the corporal of the guard, which is a term that is like pretty much the highest ranking non-officer or sergeant of the guard, right? So every morning that we go on shift, I remind everyone what those rules of engagement are. And so if the rules of engagement change, you don't have a morning meeting and say, hey, the rules of engagement have changed. You go over it for 2 minutes. No, you have to have a full briefing. Like, I mean, we're talking like a 45-minute briefing.
And you're telling me there wasn't a briefing on the day they're going to certify what
and that's what I want to ask.
But I need to add something. Ben.
Go ahead, Juan. What do you got?
We need to extrapolate this from where it is. Nobody thought that the Capitol could be breached. Nobody in their right minds. There's movies about people trying and it going very wrong. Now you have this video going throughout the internet, and Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all these nut jobs that do the terrible things could now think that, oh, we can just walk into the building. You know, and
You don't need a plane anymore.
If these things didn't happen, where do we think the order for them not to change the rules of engagement or to allow them in came from?
For me, I think there's something missing from this conversation. The president invited them. They have political clout to a degree. They have political power. So when the president invites people to protest and they come, there's confusion there. What do we do? You know,
yeah, with him too. He said, "I'm coming." Like
if Al-Qaeda came rolling in, they would have been decimated. There could have been probably 100 of them, and they would have been just destroyed. When you're invited and you have political clout, it changes things, and there's confusion as to how you deal with that threat.
They protect the president, but they don't work for the president. The Secret Service don't take cues from the president. They protect him with
but the National Guards, Eric, didn't the National Guard need to be dispatched? I had heard reports that they had to convince him to send the National Guard in.
But it's not even that, because the National Guard doesn't really need to be sent by him. It can be sent by a governor because it's their state ran. The thing is that I can guarantee you will never gather that many National Guardsmen within that amount of time. It just doesn't happen. Like, I mean, maybe Marines at a local base. We carried our A bags, which was like just the mandatory stuff, and a B bag was always packed. And you could have got us. It's still like, I mean, we would do
4 to 6 hours.
It would still have taken us, 4 to 6 hours to get. And then not only that, but to get a weapon, to get the ammo, to go through all that. It's not like you run in a room and you just pick up some ammo and grab a weapon. Like
not firefighting, man.
You have
not like the movies.
You have your own your own security number on your weapon. It's your weapon because everyone has a different point of view or different line of sight. So their scopes and stuff.
There are many weapons like it, but this one is mine.
Exactly. I mean, there's no way you. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so it's difficult for me to say all this, but just pointing out the facts that there is no National Guard unit in the world that is that badass that they can be ready and on site that fast. It doesn't happen. Like this wasn't special forces in
I think that's a great point, Eric. I want to get this last pull up as we're kind of running out of time. So this is the one I was hoping kind of bringing it back. I don't know if we'll get to the last two, but now that there is common ground, at least, and it even seems like in this room, right? It seems like everybody at the very least kind of has some of the same feel. It doesn't seem like it's very divided politically over kind of what happened. Does anyone in here, I mean, the poll is, will the country come closer together this year? I mean, you had for the first time Republican senators on the House saying, you know what? This is what was unacceptable. This was past the line. You know, we think, and that, you know, for the best interest of the country, we should come together. Whether or not that will play out or even last into next week, I think remains to be seen, but.
Well, I've got to say something. I didn't want to watch the news when all this was going on. I really didn't want to watch, you know, the different networks, anything. I knew it was going on. I was not ignoring it, but I was over here crossing my fingers for one thing, because
a lot of people.
There's just like there's this point of no return in this situation was if they've had been a serious firefight, a serious civilian massacre in the Capitol, how would that had, you know, just blistered fires all over the country and gone into like a civil war, pre-civil war status.
But one,
yes, because once you'd go that wrong, you gave them all the cannon for everybody over there, you know, just waiting for it to happen, because there's people waiting for that to happen. Now they have the moral cannon to actually go into it. So the only thing I was even paying attention to the news. I was just crossing my fingers, like, I hope there's not people shooting people there, and that's it. Like, because after that, it's like the point of no return.
Well, it is a point of no return because people died.
Yeah.
People died,
but not in the sense that, like, there was a lot of armed people there, in the sense like militia, and when you have a militia going straight forward against like U.S. representative armed forces, that's a whole different story, because then you see confrontation, and then you spark and fire up the concept of civil war, and that's incredibly dangerous.
Regardless of the methods, it was a coup what happened, even though it wasn't big and
even though it wasn't successful. They attempted to seize power by force, right?
They did. So it is a coup, and nonetheless, lives were lost. So regardless if it was a massacre or not, even if it's just one life, there's the answer to your question. There it is. I mean, it doesn't require 20 people to die to know that this is the result of all this. So I don't agree with you 100% on those terms, because it was a coup. It did happen. It failed. And people lost their lives at the end of the day. Well, that's just how I see it.
That's true. That's true as well. But like the imagery that could spread out through social media is like very dangerous. I was just really hoping that it wouldn't escalate to that point. You know, that was my thought.
We as a nation in America, we are viewed right now on the world stage as the weakest we've ever been since right after the Revolutionary War. We had no resources. We're a brand new country. We are right there right now.
You know, it's interesting. There's a book I'm reading now. It's called The Upswing, and it shows from the Gilded Age to now, it was as divided back then when the wealth disparity was that much. We literally came together in like the 40s and 50s where there was almost no political divide. In fact, there were, if you read back at the time, their articles were basically both sides politically said, it really doesn't matter which side you're on. We both pretty much agree to everything. We had this very prosperous country, and now we've moved into a place where we are as divided, and probably will end up, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I think that was kind of the way we tried to frame this.
We repeat ourselves. History repeats itself.
Nobody pays attention to it.
There's a lot of parallels between the end of the 19th century, you know, the early 19th century, end of the 18th century, when we had yellow journalism, we had all of these just, you know,
Tammany Hall, all of it.
Yeah. You had all this massive, you know, financial or economic disparity, and a lot of fear mongering, and you know, the scary thing is one of the big things that corrected it was, like a few media magnates that had bought up all of these yellow journalism, and basically said, we're going to destroy America. We have to do something about it. We got to stop sharing all this stuff that makes us tons of money, but tears everybody apart. And they started writing different stuff, and they fired all these yellow journalists, and they hired new journalists that were going to bring people together. And that's what made a difference, And, Rhonda, you talk about kind of the individual responsibility, which is great. And it's wonderful. But in practicality, if the media is sharing a lot of information, and if people with a lot of money and power are tilting things, they're just, things shift. There's just there's, as much as we want to promote individual responsibility, to some extent that's not going to be enough. And we should always champion individual responsibility, but to some extent, the top down is the only way that certain things change, because there's so much influence there, so much power there.
And I think that's a great final point to kind of end on, guys. I had a wonderful time with everybody. We'll see everybody next week when Trey will be on. Everybody have a great weekend.
You can take over again next week.
Everybody.
Good talking to
Pleasure,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks for listening, friends. I love your
Nice
passion.
seeing you all.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy weekend.